the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid. The calf and the lion and the fatling together. And a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain. For the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. On that day the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the peoples. The nation shall inquire of him, and his dwelling shall be glorious. May the living God speak to us through these holy words. Amen.
Little piece of history trivia for you. 12 years yesterday, Mary and the boys and I came into town, ate a burger down at Burger Hut. Discovered there's a lot better burger places in town than Burger Hut. But, you know, I guess you're not supposed to say that in Chico because Burger Hut's the top one. But that was 12 years ago. Can you believe that? That was the end of 2007, and of course we weren't here very much for 2007, but 2008 is the first full year that we were here. If you can believe it, in 2012, we installed these video monitors in the sanctuary. And as you would expect, there were people who were excited about the idea, and there were people who were less enthused. I remember Jan Evans was one of the folks who didn't like the idea. Now, she wasn't going to pick a fight about it. She wasn't going to petition the board to halt the project or anything like that. She just didn't like the idea, and she was going to say so because she was Jan, right? The worship committee and the board had already wrestled with this idea for about a year. We toyed with the idea of having screens and projectors, but this AV company that we finally settled on said it really isn't going to work because there's nowhere that you're going to be able to put a screen that you're not going to obstruct the cross or the stained glass windows or the banners, and the projector's going to be tough too because where are you going to put it? It's going to have to be way back in the sanctuary. You're going to have a huge lens with good optics, and projectors fade over time. You know what you ought to do is you ought to just take advantage of some of these columns here and put up 60-inch monitors because, first of all, everybody's going to be able to see them. They're not going to be straining their eyes to see what's on there. Because could you imagine what that happened if we would have put screens up there? People would have had to come up closer to the front row to see the words. So we have these 4 monitors up here, 2 that we added later so the choir or people who are sitting over here, Nancy could see. And we put them, we thought it was a pretty solid idea. Jan did not. Because, the argument she had was, what purpose do these things serve? We got hymn books. People don't need screens to sing. We got banners. People don't need to see some projected image. It'll be distraction. It'll ruin the traditional aesthetic of the church. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to be like one of these rock and roll mega churches or something like that? We've survived for almost 60 years without those. Why change? And we thanked her for her input. And we put the monitors in anyway, because at the time the majority opinion was the monitors were a good idea. So 2 things happened after that. Number 1, Katie Valentine moved into town, and the Terrells told me she's moving into town. Do not neglect inviting her to church. She came to church. She liked us. She had a sermon in her. So the sermon that she preached, she used visuals that we put up on the monitors, which was great. But Jan still didn't like them. Even though there are other people who we kind of won over, Jan still did not like those monitors. But then the second thing happened. The second thing that happened was that Charlie Phillips died. And one of Charlie's children made a video presentation that we projected on these monitors during the service. And those who were gathered for that service today got to see video clips of the old, familiar Charlie before dementia took over. They saw his big smiling face on still pictures. They had a little mini movie where he was serving abalone to guests up at his cabin in Lake Almanor, and he just loved to mug for the camera. And there was not a dry eye in that sanctuary that day. And right after the service, Jan Evans came to me with a tear in her eyes and said, "Okay, I see why we have those video monitors now. This is a good thing." Cut to a year and a few months later, Katie and I were working on the Christmas Eve candlelight service, and we came to the conclusion that using the video monitors wasn't going to work, because we felt that having the words to Silent Night projected on the monitors would cause the room to be too bright, and it would just ruin the effect of having the room lit by candles. Guess who came to us after the service and said, "Why didn't you use those video monitors?" You guessed it, it was Jan Evans. And we told her why. And she says, "Well, that's a simple fix." Katie and I kind of looked at each other and thought, okay. She says, "Just put a black screen and put white letters up there. Because then that'll work. It'll stay dark enough to where we have the candles. Because right now, this isn't working. Just try holding a bulletin and a candle and trying to be poking around like that. It's just not going to work." Well, it worked for 60 years, right? But I miss Jan. I think of her often when I flip the on switch to the monitors. She wasn't on board with that vision at first, but when she saw the practical application, she was behind the project 100%. She just wasn't able to catch the vision when the folks on the worship committee announced that project. It took her a while. So let's talk about people who proclaim new visions. Let's talk about those who say, "Hey, here's something to look forward to." Those people are often seen as either crackpots or unrealistic dreamers. Let's face it. When Isaiah announced the vision that Tom read earlier, I imagine Isaiah got the same sort of reaction. The wolf will lie down with the lamb? A leopard will rest with a young goat? Children will play with poisonous snakes? Leaders will speak truth and humility? Right. I mean, how do you expect us to believe any of this? It's like fantasy. It's like science fiction or something. These things have never happened before. But, you think about it. Wow, I've seen National Geographic specials where the sons, the kids of snake charmers are learning the trade, so they're playing with the poisonous snakes and things, and I guess that's okay, but oh my word, leaders who speak with truth and humility, that is a tough sell, right? These things defy comprehension, and Isaiah was seen as either crazy or a scam artist. Like one of these ads that you see for a magic pill that'll make you fit and beautiful without exercising, or a face cream that will make you look 20 years younger, or cure baldness or something. I always tell my kids, hey, listen, if you see a deal that looks too good to be true, then it is probably too good to be true. This reality that Isaiah was talking about sounded really strange. But here's something to think about. Our beliefs about the limits of reality get very tangled up with what we expect and what we have experienced before. What seems like something outside reality in one place or time is taken for granted in another place and another time. Think about this. People who thought the world was round were once committed and locked up because they had clearly lost their ability to function in the real world. People in South Africa who thought Nelson Mandela would be president someday were often given a dose of reality therapy in a Johannesburg prison cell. But hey, if Mandela could be president, who's to say that a leopard couldn't lie down with a goat? Beware of those who try to define reality for you. Beware of those who tell you what is real or realistic or what is not. If someone else is trying to define the limits of your reality, you need to ask, what is it that they're invested in to hold me into this present reality? Why would they be threatened if we believed that something was possible that just isn't in place yet? Here's an example. Why do people in the fossil fuel industry tell us that investing in alternative and renewable energy sources is unrealistic? Well, that's easy, because there's money to be made. There's power to be maintained by holding on to that old reality, no matter what is happening. There are vested interests to be protected. People cannot be allowed to believe that it's possible for your product or your regime or your worldview to become useless. You've always got to ask who is backing a particular view of the world. Follow the money, and you have your answer. And this manipulation of our perception of reality doesn't just happen on the world stage over big issues, because how many times have you come up with a great idea, a wonderful idea, and one that you think that is so good, and then somebody comes along and just deflates that idea. There is no way it can be done. There is no way. It is unrealistic to think you can ever move that communion table from the chancel to the floor. That's another story for another day. How many times have you said, I'm going to set my intention on being a less critical, more positive person? And then only to have somebody say, yeah, you'll always be like that. You'll always be that way. That's the way you've always been. So you just get your head out of the clouds because this is the real world. This is your box. Get real and accept it. So, if somebody's saying this to you, you got to ask why. You've got to ask, what is this person's payoff for keeping me in the cage of my old view of reality? Again, follow the money. Or in this case, follow the vested interest of the one who wants to keep you in the cage. Because maybe it's nothing big and sinister. Maybe it is. I don't know. But maybe it's nothing more than the fear of seeing someone else achieve what they either failed or were afraid to even try. Either way, Always be wary of anybody who wants to define your dreams as being outside the realm of reality. Now, sometimes the difficulties that we have embracing a new vision are not external, because they're not always somebody else with a vested interest. Sometimes these demons come from within us, because often we're just resigning ourselves to the inevitability of unchanging cycles. We've heard so often that history repeats itself, and the more things change, the more they stay the same. We hear that so much that we take it for granted that the way things are pretty much are going to be the way that they're always going to be. Our experience of the world determines the limits of our vision. We can say, well, hey, you know what? I've never seen a leopard change its spots, therefore it cannot. Or, I've never seen a lion lay down with a lamb, therefore it cannot happen. Or, I've never known someone you can really trust, therefore there is no one in this world that you can really trust. Or, I've never been able to change this pattern, these negative patterns in my life, therefore I never will. See, we end up as our own worst enemies, with a mixture of fear, a lack of vision conspiring from within us to hold us in the prison of our own present circumstances. The voices, then they start whispering to us, every time you've tried to get out of this before, you have failed. Don't risk being a failure again. You can dream your dreams and everything, but they're only dreams. You always have to go back to the reality where you wake up, back to the real world where nothing ever changes. The realm of the possible is always bigger than we think it is. We've gotten used to the fact that the impossible keeps on becoming possible in every day in the world of science and technology. It's true in the realms of psychology, personal relationships, social systems. We think, if your relationships have always been disasters, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of having good relationships. It may just mean that you've been approaching them wrong. Think about a mountain climber. When a mountain climber can't get up a peak, they try a different way. They try a different route. They don't keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting something different. That's the definition of insanity right there. They go and find a new way until it can be done. The fact that there are still wars going on in the world today does not mean that the lion can never eat straw with an ox. It just means we haven't found the way to peace yet. Now, before Jesus came along, the common belief was that you were only acceptable to God if you were a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then Jesus came along and said it could be possible if you believed and trust God for it. He called us to take up the vision of Isaiah, to look for the day when there would be justice for the needy, equity for the poor. Jesus lived and died to let us know that you can expect better than just more of the same old, same old. He was raised from the dead to show that even death no longer was the end of hope. Even death could no longer limit the scope of reality. The risen Christ has just kicked down that door of our prison. We are free to believe what was once thought impossible, but the prisoner who dreams and whose vision have never extended beyond those closed doors will be unable to face the prospect of venturing beyond those doors. For Jesus' sake, let us not stay sitting in the back of ourselves, unwilling to go through the open door because we've given up hope or we've never done it that way before. Maybe you've never seen beyond the door, but there is a beautiful world waiting. A world where the lion will lay down with the wolf. Excuse me, that would be good for the lion to lay down with the wolf. That's where the lion will lay down with the lamb. A world where snake pits are safe playgrounds for children. A world of justice for the poor, freedom for the oppressed, and comfort for the broken heart. So on this day of Peace Sunday, this second week of Advent, our prayer is, come, Lord Jesus. Come, Prince of Peace. Come.